Hauka, to all my Kumeyaay relatives, and good morning. Tehovit, to my Tongva people that my dad's people are from. Sign of the times, got this mask here. So who was that mask man? Here today to start off the GONA training, first virtual GONA training, 2020. Wow, interesting times we live in, huh? So what we're doing today is basically like everything else that we've done before. It's teaching the passing of the knowledge to the children, giving them tools to work with to better our future. Because I always say this doesn't belong to us. What we have, what we were taught, what we carry, belongs to the children, belongs to the next generation and the generation after that. To all our ancestors, Wopila Pilamia, thank you, Tehovit, for what you've given us. And to the generations we won't even get to see, thank you. You are our dream, you're our prayers. And with that, I'd like to play a flute song for you. Before that, I'd like to hold up the tobacco. Usually we would be putting down tobacco or smoking the pipe and blowing the tobacco in the air. I have my sage here, but we have sprinklers too, and can't be burning sage inside the building. Sometimes we do, but not much. So with these feathers right here, I always say I carry a few that don't belong to me, they belong to the people. And so I have this golden eagle, this bald eagle, a spotted bald eagle, that's the young one, and this wing feather of a condor, because the elders said the eagle and the condor will come back together. And this means all the people of this region. And so all our prayers of gratitude go up. And so this song's for you guys. Take off my hat for this. A little sunburn from the beach yesterday. It was a beautiful blessing. The waves are cracking.
My name is Brittany Woodard. I am a practicum student / counselor at SCARE. I am a student at the University of San Diego, currently receiving my master's in clinical mental health counseling. Some of my interests are working with individuals with trauma, especially in the BIPOC community. I'm excited to be at SCARE. I love working here so far. I love working with the community, and I just hope to be able to help you all through this presentation.
Hi everyone, my name is Isaac Conlon Qualley. I am also a practicum student from the University of San Diego, and I'm here at SCARE as a counselor. And I'm originally from Minneapolis, and I kind of became interested in SCARE because my aunt was a counselor, and she was married to a Native man, and so my uncle, and growing up and being close to her and being close to him, I was exposed to some different aspects of Native culture, and so I've had an interest in the community from a young age, and the opportunity to be a part of SCARE came up as a student at USD, and I met with the staff, and I just really kind of loved the energy that they had, and I was able to find my way here, and I'm really thankful for that, and I hope to get to know all of you someday in person, not on the camera.
Hi everyone, my name is Taylor Wilson. I am the new academic tutor here at SCARE. I am of Chamorro descent from the indigenous people of Guam. I have been working in tutoring and with kids for the last few years, so I know that this is some crazy times with distance learning. I hope that we can all help you out here today.
And before we start, I just want to acknowledge and thank the Kumeyaay people for allowing us the opportunity to be on this land today. And so this is the harvest training about how to help you and your kids manage Zoom school. And one of the first things that might be helpful to do is just think about all the responsibilities that you have on your plate right now, and maybe take a minute to list them and write them down, and this will kind of help you to like prioritize and delegate and try and help you figure out like which things are important and which things you can maybe put a little bit lower down on your list of things to do. And so while you're doing this, you might have some feelings of anxiety, you might feel overwhelmed because, as we all know, there's a ton of responsibilities that we all need to fulfill nowadays, especially given the fact that everybody's in the same place, in the same houses with Zoom school. And so one of the things that can be helpful with that is just to simply breathe. And I know it sounds simple, but if you can take a minute, if you are feeling anxious, overwhelmed, stressed out, to just breathe in and breathe out. And that will kind of help you to get out of that emotional brain, which is where you might be feeling anxious, overwhelmed, and stressed out, and that will bring you back into your thinking brain, bring you and your kids back into your thinking brain, which will help with things like logic, reason, communication, learning, and retention. And these are all things that'll help you and your kids be more productive when in Zoom school, because when they're in that emotional, anxious brain, it's going to be hard to be a productive student, and it's going to be hard for you as a parent to help them through some of those feelings. And then, so I just wanted to talk about a couple of tools that you can use to try and help some of the emotions that might be coming up during this extremely stressful time. And so the first one is to normalize you and your children's emotions. All emotions are normal, emotions are natural, our emotions are part of what makes us human, and so to experience those emotions is to be human. So, and another part of that is to think about not all emotions are negative, or there's not necessarily negative emotions, they're just emotions. And you know, even though the stress and anxiety of Zoom school you might think, man, like I don't want to be feeling like this, I can't be feeling like this because me and my kids need to be productive and we need to like manage this Zoom school and get good grades and everything. But if you can take time to be self-compassionate with those emotions and not judge them when they come up, that's going to help you really accept your emotions and to work through them as they come up. And another thing that can be helpful with that is to name your emotions. And this can be done by just simply stating them out loud or writing them down. And just like breathing can help you get out of your emotional brain, naming your emotions can help you get back into your thinking brain, which is, again, like the reason, the logic, communication, and learning and retention that will help your kids be more productive in Zoom school. And then the last thing is to, when these difficult emotions do come up, try to respond and not react to them. And that can be really difficult, and it takes time to learn how to do that. But reactions are usually quick. They happen without thinking, and they're tense, and they can maybe be aggressive. And so interacting in like a cycle of reactions can kind of bring up other reactions, where if you yell at your kid to get back to work, your kid might yell back in response, and it'll kind of create this chain of negative interactions. But if you can get to a place where you can respond to your emotions and to your children's emotions, then the cycle of communication might be more healthy and bring about more connection. And so maybe just take a minute, pause the video here, to write down some of your thoughts and feelings in this specific moment. And this can kind of be a practice of naming your emotions and having compassion for the emotions that you're experiencing right now. Okay, I hope you paused and wrote some things down, and I hope you're not judging yourself for whatever you're feeling right now. And the second tool is to check your expectations. COVID has kind of changed our expectations of what this year is going to look like, and it can be really easy to compare to how, like, to think back to how things would have been if COVID wasn't happening, if we were all allowed to be in school in person and to be interacting with people the way that we used to. But sometimes these expectations can kind of keep us stuck, and they can kind of keep us from moving forward and from accepting the situation that we're in. And so just as we were talking earlier about trying to accept our emotions, it can also be helpful to try and accept the situation that we're all here, we're all trying to manage this thing called Zoom school as best as we can. And like accepting that fact can help us cope with our reality. Because if you try to say things like, I hate that we're in Zoom school, I don't like this situation, that can bring up those feelings of stress and anxiety and overwhelm that we were talking about earlier. And so to try and accept the situation can get you back to that more a calmer place of being. And so again, maybe just take a minute, pause the video here again, and write down what your emotions are, what your expectations are for the school year, and then maybe think about what your expectations are for your kids. And then take a minute to think, are these expectations realistic? Because like we were saying, these times are very different than anything we've ever experienced, most of us have ever experienced before. So give yourself some grace around that and try and shift what your expectations might have been. And the third tool is just to try and talk to your kids. And I know that might seem kind of cliche, but these conversations with our children are extremely important, and they're gonna build connection that will like help them throughout the school year and to feel understood. And so just as you named your emotions for yourself earlier, try in conversations with your kids to name the emotions that they're feeling. If they're really stressed out about some project on Zoom School and the internet is not acting the way it's supposed to, just acknowledge that fear that they might be experiencing about not getting that project done. And this will help them to feel seen, heard, and validated. And then naming the emotions will also help them to feel less overwhelmed. And another thing, it can be really easy in the moment to try and rationalize the situation, like it's okay, like you're gonna get through this, Zoom school is hard, but to skip over the emotions that they're bringing up can make kids feel disconnected. And it might be, some people might think that like if you name the emotion like fear or anger, it might grow, but actually the opposite would happen, where if you name that emotion, you get it out and you talk about it, you can work through it together with your kids. And so now maybe take a minute to just write down what you think your kids might be feeling about going into this year on Zoom School, and try not to make assumptions about what they're feeling or what you think they should be feeling, and just simply try and listen to what they're saying and like reflect that back to them. And then the last thing that I'm gonna talk about is just be flexible and compassionate, because as we were saying earlier, our expectations for how things should have been have completely shifted, and it can be hard to like operate, we can't operate the way that we used to. And so if there are new solutions to problems that you can think of, go with that and be open to looking at things in a different way. And to be compassionate is basically just to be kind and to be willing to say that we are all doing the best that we can with what we have right now. And it's gonna be difficult to manage those things when everybody's living under the same roof and has nowhere to go but home. And so if you are in the kitchen on your own Zoom meeting, you're trying to get your own work done, and your kid comes in and is trying to get some snack from the fridge, just know that they're not trying to ruin your meeting. They're just trying to get their own needs met the best way that they know how. And yeah, and then last thing to think about, maybe pause the video again, and just write down some of the ways that you are flexible in your home, and maybe some of the ways that you could be more flexible. And then also some of the ways that the people in your home are compassionate, and maybe the ways that you can bring more compassion into the home. Thank you for listening to me today. I hope to be able to meet some of you one day, and I'm just thankful to be here at SCARE and to be talking to all of you through this camera, but again, hopefully we get to see each other in person someday. Thank you.
Okay, so picking up where Isaac left off, another tool that helps out with Zoom School and Zoom School stress is creating a family plan. So you want to create a strategic plan in place so that you can kind of check in with your kids and see how everything is going with school, to see what kind of stressors they're having. You can create kind of a ritual to ask them about their feelings, to build connection, and it also reduces stress. Sometimes that might be ideal to have these conversations is dinner time or bedtime, deciding which needs and actions they need monitoring, and And so this would be a great time to practice just talking to them about their emotions, normalizing the things that come up for them, and just having some compassion for your children with everything that's going on with them. So now kind of take a moment to pause and kind of jot down your some things that are coming to you right now. Try to think about each family member's needs and how to manage the stress and anxiety that comes. And then what are some solutions that maybe you need for these? And so another tool to use to go along with that is setting a schedule. So if you kind of create a family schedule, it helps things kind of go to float. So here I have pulled up a schedule. So this schedule is just a PDF, and you all will have access to this as well in the resources that we will be sending out to you. So this is just basically a schedule. It has Sunday through Saturday, and basically it gives you the times of the day, and it's time blocked. So say for instance, your child starts school at about 9 o'clock, and maybe they have a class from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. You can block that out. And then maybe you'll be working around this time, so you can also add that in, or maybe you work after them. But basically just making sure that you're setting a schedule so that way you know what's happening and your children also can know what's happening. So this is one that you can keep with you. Another creative way that you can create a family schedule is if you have a wall in your house that's kind of accessible for everyone in the house, you can kind of create a schedule on that wall using a dry erase board. There are so many creative ideas that maybe you can find on Pinterest, where people use just like tape and kind of like tape off blocks and kind of just put in there different things that they have going on. You can color code it, you can make it fun for the family. One great way to get your kids involved, you can have them kind of decorate the board so that way they feel like that's something that they look forward to looking at, because they can add their stickers on there. Maybe you can do something like, oh, on Fridays at the end of the week, if they did great, they can go up there and add another sticker just to kind of give them some encouragement to go on throughout the rest of the weeks to come. So there's also another link that you all will receive if you wanted to buy a planner. There is a nice planner that I like to use personally. And it's just nice because it's like the same thing with the time blocks and schedules, and then it also has like a small to-do list on there that you can write in what needs to be done. And then the great part about it is at the bottom it has a end of the week review, so you can kind of like write down what worked, what didn't work, so that way if you're taking note on what worked and what didn't work, you'll know what to expect for the next week, what you can change, what you can try something new and different. The next tool is to give your kids something to look forward to. So if you plan your breaks out well, and maybe say on a break, you say, hey, well, you know, you did good. You sat at the desk, you did your work. Let's go outside, let's play on the scooters. Or maybe if you have like a small arts and craft activity they can do, play with slime. There's so many different ways to kind of have your kids take a break, because just like as adults, if you're on Zoom all day, which I know some of us are, it gets tiring being on Zoom all day. So that goes to that compassion piece and understanding how breaks are important and to make them fun. Or maybe a break is just to have them just sit. If they need to just sit and just clear their mind, especially like when you're talking about some of the older kids, that might be what they want to do, and that's fine as well. So some other things that you can also do is, when it comes to like lunch break or snack break, make fun snacks or fun lunches for kids. So some things you can do is like have sandwiches and like cut the sandwiches out into shapes or something like that. So that way it's something fun that they're seeing and they look forward to it. And I know it might sound a little stressful, and you might say, well, I'm already tired and I'm burnt and I don't have time to put anything else on my plate. One thing that you can do to help with that is make it a fun activity for your kids. your kids can also help. So if you plan it out well, and on the weekends maybe you start to go ahead and cut the shapes in the sandwiches, or go ahead and pre-make the sandwiches and cut it, then that might help. And that's another activity to kind of get your kids engaged, to kind of help them have some relaxation time and step away from stress as well. And then up on the screen now, you have some pictures. And these are some pictures of some ideas that you can do with your kids. So one picture here has just a little cup, almost look like little glasses, but they're little plastic cups, and they have grapes in them, but they also have bananas in it, but the bananas are in the shape, it looks like a dolphin coming out of a cup. So it's just something fun, but it's just grapes and bananas, and then they put a grape inside, like a cut piece of the banana. So something simple like that could be beneficial for your kids. You could also do the next picture, which is just a bowl of Jell-O, and it has Olaf from Frozen, and it's just marshmallows in the shape of Olaf, and they use some icing to kind of give him some buttons and hands and a nose, just something like that to make them kind of engage, and it's kind of crafty, and make them also want to eat their food if they are sometimes don't want to eat. And then you also have some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that are just shaped in stars, and they're shaped in moons. And you can find like little cookie cutters at the store or on Amazon. They sell them at Dollar Tree. So you can find some that's like real inexpensive, to just small ways of helping your kids become engaged and have a little fun. So another thing that you can do is, it can be difficult for kids sometimes when you're telling them to sit on Zoom and they don't know when it's going to be time for them to take a break. So one thing that you can do is put a timer in front of them. If you know what time class starts and what time class ends, then that way you can have a timer, a little countdown in front of them to show them what time class will be over. So that way that shows, like, when you hear this timer go off, you can get up from your desk, and then we're going to do a fun activity. So that's another way to just kind of keep them engaged. So that's all that I have. I'm going to pass it over to Taylor, who is going to continue to talk about some more tips. It was nice talking to you all. I hope you were able to use some of these things. Thank you again.
All right, so like I said, I am the academic tutor here at SCARE. I've been doing tutoring for a few years, but learning looks so different this year than it ever has before. Distance learning has so many challenges for every family. There's so many changes that are constantly happening. So I wanted to talk about how to set up your workspace to get into the zone of learning. So distance learning is going to look different for everyone based off of their resources, time, schedule, and available space. So some of these tips are going to work better for you than others. So one of the big challenges for distance learning is that there's no separation between your time at home and your time at school. So we really want to make sure that your student feels like they have an environment that they are ready to learn in. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is setting up a workspace. So at the beginning of the day, make sure that your student gets out of their pajamas, out of bed, and that they change into their everyday clothes, just like they're going to go to school. And then we want to make sure that they have a workspace where they're able to sit up and at a table instead of lounging in bed, going on Zoom that way. Make sure that they're really ready to be productive. And at the beginning of the day, you want to set up any supplies that they might need, like pencils, pens, notebooks, tablets. That way, once they do get in the zone of learning, they don't have to get up from their workspace to go finding things all over the house. They'll be ready to go. And try your best in the workspace to eliminate any distractions. And I know that it's not going to be fully possible. There's always distractions at home, especially when there's many students in the room. But try your best to maybe turn off the TV, set any phones on the side, and to turn the volume down on any loud music or anything like that, anything that can help your student to focus. So the next thing I want to talk about is creating a routine. So creating a daily routine is really going to help your student know exactly what they need to do each day. So create a routine that's going to work for you and your student. And be sure to include things like breaks and meals right into the routine as well. And then similar to creating a routine, I'm going to talk about creating a schedule. So a routine is going to focus more so on the daily tasks that you're doing, but a schedule is going to be more focused and specific to each day or to each week. So try to keep the schedule as consistent as possible, and at the beginning of the week, have your student go ahead and create a weekly schedule with all of their assignments and due dates. That way they know exactly what's coming up and they don't get totally blindsided by an assignment that they have due on some day. And then at the beginning of every day, you want to make sure that they create a to-do list so they know exactly what they have to do for that day. It can be anything as simple from putting down their Zoom class to reading a page of their homework, completing an assignment, and they will know exactly what to do for that day. And if they have any weekly packets or any big assignments, you want to make sure that that's broken up into different days so then they're not trying to cram everything into one day for any big assignment just on the due date. And try your best to go ahead and stick to your routine and schedule. That way your student is going to know exactly what to do every single day. They're going to wake up and know, I wake up at 8 o'clock, I'm going to get dressed, I'm going to eat breakfast, set up my workspace, I have Zoom class, and then homework. And that'll help them to be more independent and know what to expect as every day comes along. So for parents that have students with IEPs, there's going to be a whole other set of learning challenges when it comes to distance learning. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about some things that you can do to minimize any obstacles. So first, you want to make sure that you have a copy of your student's IEP and that you read through it thoroughly. Also, you want to make sure that you're able to get one goal per week to work on with your student. Try not to do any more than that, as it can get a little bit overwhelming for both you and the student. And then there's so many options for computer functions and distance learning that can really help students. So you can use all these functions like subtitles, speech to text if your student has trouble typing. There's text audio that can read out loud any text on the page, or and just larger fonts, and it'll help your student to be focused and be able to understand exactly what's going on the computer or tablet. And one of the biggest things is to make sure that you reach out to the teachers, because those teachers can really help to eliminate any obstacles, and they can work with you to create a plan for your student. And then for any parents that have students that might be a little bit too energetic, make sure that they have time to move around. They can do anything from jumping jacks to going for a run, even walking around the living room if you're not able to go anywhere, or even just stepping outside. And a lot of that's going to help them refresh and get focused once they come back to work. And if you have a student that's unfocused or unmotivated, then it might be easier to do things like a small reward. So if they need to get one task done, you can tell them, oh, once you get this task done, you can have an extra snack or you can have an extra break. That'll help them keep them on track and motivated for any assignments that they have for the day. And another one of the big challenges for distance learning and just learning in general is going to be helping your students with their homework and their schoolwork, especially if it's for topics that you're not familiar with. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about 2 online resources that are completely free. All you have to do is create a login for it. So the first one is going to be khanacademy.org, and that is going to be a great resource that has subjects such as math, reading, English, science, history, and so many more from grades 1st all the way up until 12th grade, all the way through high school. And so this is going to actually have things like video lessons and practice questions that will help gauge your students' understanding, and it will help elaborate on any topics they're struggling with and not answering correctly in the practice questions as well. And similar to that, there's also a website called CK through 12, and it's very similar in that it has topics like math, reading, science, social studies, again from 1st grade all the way up until high school. The main difference with this one is that they also have online textbooks that can help with subjects, and as well as the practice questions and video lessons to help your student understand anything that they may need. And if your student needs any more assistance, I'm available as a tutor here at SCARE. Just feel free to reach out to me. I do weekly sessions. You can email me. Thank you guys for joining us here today and for listening. I really hope that we are able to be of some assistance to you guys during this chaotic time of COVID and distance learning. Thank you.